Medellin is the fountain of youth for a lot of people, including myself. The first thing that WebMD says in order to deter aging is to sleep enough. If you don't have a bunch of money, and I mean a bunch of money like where you can't spend more than $600 a month on an apartment, and you have to go lower than $600 a month, you're probably not going to sleep a lot because you're going to be in a neighborhood that has noise. I live in El Poblado in a pretty populated area. I'm not a light sleeper, and I sleep through the night well. Even though I can hear music sometimes on Calle 10, I sleep 8 hours through. It's very rare that I wake up at some point in the night. And I feel like I have in Medellin catered my life and designed my life and designed this apartment where I live, etc., to be able to sleep 8 hours through uninterrupted and not have to wake up because an alarm is waking me up. I never set an alarm. The number two thing that WebMD talks about to prevent aging is smoking. As I read that, I started to think about how many people I know in my life that smoke. I can't name one Colombian person that smokes cigarettes. Isn't that amazing? Here, it's very rare to smoke. I know that people do smoke, and I'll see them smoking sometimes when I go out. This is what the government health page in Colombia says. Thanks to the tobacco control measures adopted in recent years, the percentage of prevalence of smokers fell from 8.3% to 5.6%. So there were 1 million fewer smokers in 2022 compared to 2021. That does make sense because I don't know a lot of people that smoke. The next thing that WebMD says is that you're in the sun too much. So I did some research. I'm like, I see the sun here every day. You know, I go out pretty much every day, walking around, walking to the gym, walking to the co-working space, going to the cafe, going to meet up a friend for lunch. I mean, I'm in the sun constantly. And it says, according to climatestotravel.com, on average, the total annual amount of sun in Medellin is 1,850 hours. In comparison to, for example, Miami, 3,150 hours. In New York, 2,656 hours. In Los Angeles, it's 3,348 hours. Obviously, you're not in the sunlight all of those hours. That's literally hours of sunlight, but it's relative, right? There are less hours of sunlight in Medellin compared to some of these major cities. So you're less exposed to the element, which will age you. And the next one is that you don't moisture your skin. I thought that was what, like, really? One of the first things that shows signs of aging is your skin. So, okay, I went along with it and I did some research. According to Brickell Men's Products website, when humidity levels are around 50%, it's actually quite good for your skin. Those conditions allow your skin to maintain a balance of moisture that keeps it smooth and hydrated without getting too sweaty, oily, dirty, or tight. And then according to weatherandclimate.com, the average humidity in Medellin is about 60% annually. So we're hitting 50% to 60% constantly throughout the year. Today it was at 48%. I checked. I never really thought about the humidity levels affecting your skin and also aging. I don't know. I find this interesting. The next thing that it says, not eating healthy increases aging. I think that's pretty much a no-brainer. But when you live in a country or in a city or even in a town where it's customary to just go through a drive-through or to just order delivery, to eat hamburgers, to eat pizza, almost as a reward for a long day's work, you could be looking at unhealthy levels of eating, right? Colombian food is not very healthy. Many things are fried and not organic. If you have money though, as most foreigners do, you can buy food from organic stores like El Carulla on the bottom floor of Tesoro. It's not Éxito prices from downtown. You're going to be paying more, but it's healthier food. That doesn't mean that everybody eats unhealthy here. In Colombia, for the most part, this is the eating habit throughout the day. In the morning, your meal is small, and it's usually like an arepa or a piece of bread, coffee, or a Milo, like a hot chocolate. So it's not the super healthiest thing, but it's this little small meal. So it's not like you're gorging yourself with this stuff. The next meal, which is the biggest meal, and probably the healthiest meal out of all of them, is lunch. Lunch consists of a soup that is the first thing that you eat. It's usually like a lentil soup, a bean soup, a potato soup, a vegetable soup, seasoned with salt and maybe some oregano, and maybe some cilantro. And then you have the main plate, which is a piece of protein, rice, maybe a grain on there too, or potato, and a salad. You'll be drinking natural juice. I find that a lot of people drink it with no sugar because usually fruits here are pretty sweet. That's a pretty well-balanced lunch, and it's the biggest meal of the day typically for a Colombian. And then dinner is, again, something small. I was deported from the United States. I couldn't afford to live on my own. I roommated with many people, and I had many Colombian roommates, and that was their routine. I guess it's because it's cheap and it's fast, and it's not the world's healthiest, but also if you're eating small portions, it's also not going to make you obese. It's not like ordering a pizza from Domino's for $5. I mean, when you're poor and you can't buy shit, you're not going to eat a lot of junk food either. The next thing that WebMD says to avoid, not doing exercise enough. You're not exercising enough. And in Medellin, I think everyone pretty much exercises. Even if you have a car, you're walking a lot. In the United States, we have a culture of driving. Like we drive to the mailbox and it's in our front, in the front of our house. And when my brother first got here, about like 9 years ago, he said, man, I've never walked this much in my life. Every day, constantly. I'm like, yeah, we don't have a car here. We walk everywhere. For the most part, most of my friends that are expats here are health conscious. And I think someone that is making a radical move to another country to experience something great is a person that is also got their mindset right. Okay, so exercising, Colombia has that covered for me. I mean, I walk everywhere. I do stuff every day. Okay, so the next thing that WebMD says is also not having a social network. Not having a social network depresses you, makes life boring, and it also makes you age more because you have less to look forward to. Having a social network is also tied into love. And I remember in the article it said specifically it doesn't mean like romantic love. Having love and passion that you can express in a social network reduces aging, according to this article, which I thought was amazing because in Medellin, it's pretty hard to be antisocial. Especially if you are a foreigner, because people are inclined to ask you questions because you are a foreigner, because you are different. But I think as a foreigner in a country where you're not normal, and especially if you're not in the touristy area of El Poblado, anywhere else, whatever building you're in, most of the people living in that building are going to be Colombian, and you're speaking English or you're on the phone and you're speaking English, they're going to look at you and they'll remember, and the next time they'll probably say hello, try to practice their English with you, maybe ask you a question about where you're from, etc. And when you're in the elevator, happens all the time, and I don't even look gringo. Growing your social circle is pretty inevitable here in Medellin, especially for a person like me. I'm a pretty social person, so my life has gotten better because my social circle has just blown up. This article's everything wrong with America. I think it's just wrong if you're in the wrong place, right? And I think America, especially like the rat race culture, can get to people. And the fact that people are very independent there, here people may work a long time or harder or, are poorer, but it seems that the culture is just a little different. The other thing that this article from WebMD states, you skip your health checkups with your doctors. Skipping checkups is proven to speed your aging process. You might have some ailment that you're not aware of because you didn't get your checkup at 40 years old, of your prostate or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm talking about. And I think a lot of people in countries like the United States where healthcare is so expensive, and because you have so many other things on your mind that you forget to go to the doctor, or you just skip it and you're like, oh, I'll go later. And then eventually, you're rushing to the doctor because something hurts or something worse happened, right? If you can make $2,000 plus per month and live in Medellin, you're going to have a great private health insurance. You're going to have a doctor. You're going to have an app where you can schedule your appointments for whatever date, whatever time you want, as long as it's not too crowded. And you're not going to miss those appointments because it's going to be easier than if you're making $2,000 in the United States. I didn't even think about this when I was creating this document. If you're living on $2,000 a month and you want to do all of these things that this WebMD article states to reduce your aging, would you be able to do it on $2,000 a month? For $2,000 a month in one of those major cities, it would be pretty tough to have all of that like lining up, right? It's probably doable. I'm not going to say no because I don't want to be one of those like, oh, Medellin is better than LA because of this. No, because everybody's different. Everybody's life is different. My life is great here in Medellin. I've made the best of it. I love it. Everything on this list, I check off. That's why I feel younger here. I'm 42. I feel like I'm 25. Sometimes I feel like I'm 19, but then my knees will remind me that I can't really do high impact stuff. Now that I'm going to have a baby with my 24-year-old girlfriend, I don't know, does that make me feel older or younger? I think it makes me feel something. Doesn't make me feel weird. Like now that I said it out loud, it kind of sounds weird.